and welcome to Chapter 2, Lesson 5. Today we're going to be talking about comparing and ordering fractions, decimals, and percents. So let's get started. All right, so we've got this little problem here. I'm going to scooch my video over. It's on page 130. I think I might have skipped around. I'm not quite sure, but on page 130. Now, I put this vocabulary here as well because it talks about least common denominator. We talked about least common multiple, same thing. But it's just when you're looking at denominators. So, for example, here I have 2, 6, 3, and 5. And now on the pretest, a lot of you were able to decipher like, hey, this one's less than, greater than, maybe you were comparing to a half or a whole. But what we really need to do is get common denominators because then we're comparing equal-sized pieces. So if I'm looking at 2, 6, 3, and 5, to get the least common denominator, I'm going to pick the biggest number, 6. Okay? I'm going to do multiples of 6's until they all intersect, okay? So 6, is that a multiple of 5? No, but it is of 2 and 3. 12 is also a multiple of 2 and 3, but not 5. Another 6 would be 18. Again, 2 and 3, but not 5. 24. Nope. 30. Yes. So 30 is a multiple of 2, 6, 3, and 5. Remember, multiples are count by numbers. So if I count by 2, I hit 30. If I count by 6, I hit 30. 3, I hit 30. And 5, I hit 30. So I'm going to get all my denominators to equal to 30. So 1/2, I'm going to multiply that by 15 over 15 to get 15 thirtieths. 5/6, I'm going to multiply by 5 over 5 to get 25 thirtieths. And 2/3, I'm going to multiply it by 10 over 10. To get 20 thirtieths, and 3/5, I'm going to multiply by 6 over 6 to get 18 thirtieths. So remember, our denominator tells us what size the piece is. So now that they're all the same size, pretty small, we can order them from least to greatest. Notice how I went back to the question to see, hey, am I doing greatest to least or least to greatest? So the smallest one up here is going to be this one right here. So it'll be 1/2 is going to come first. 1/2 is least. Also notice when I'm ordering them from least to greatest, I'm not doing the fraction that has a denominator of 30. I'm doing the original fraction as well. This will be our next one, 3/5. Then 2/3. And lastly, 5/6. Okay, when we get that common denominator, it's much simpler to order them, and you can know you got them in the right order. Okay, next it says we are going to compare fractions, decimals, and percents. So 1/5 is the same as 2/10, right? 1/5, if I multiply by 2, I'd get 2/10. Or 20%, right? Because 2/10, if I multiply that by 10 over 10, I'd get 20 hundredths, which would tell me 20%. So this is just a nice little table here to look at, observe things that maybe you didn't know. So here, when we are comparing fractions, decimals, percents, and they're not the same format, so like in this case, we're doing a fraction to a decimal, we need to either choose to put them both fraction or both decimal. Now, decimal is nicer because then we don't have to worry about getting common denominators. So here they just turned 3/4 to 75 hundredths, which is 0.75. And then I can easily compare that 75 hundredths is greater than 70 hundredths. So we would want to eat that one. Eat this one here. Okay, again, we have a percent and a fraction, so we should either turn them both into fractions, both into percents, or in this case, they did decimals. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that interesting? Probably because 8 doesn't really go into 100. So 85%, we can just go boop, boop. 85%. Now 7/8, I would probably do 7 divided by 8. 8 goes into 70, 8 times minus 64, 6 left over. It'd be 7 times minus 56. I have 4 left over. 8 goes into 45 times with 0 left over. So I'm comparing 85 hundredths to 875 thousandths. Okay, so when I'm comparing these two, I'm going to rewrite that quick. Okay, so I'm going to start just like if these were whole numbers. Start on the left, zeros, eights. Here in that hundredths place, I have a 5 and I have a 7. So it doesn't matter anything else to the right. It's just we see we have 5 hundredths and 7 hundredths. So 7 hundredths one's going to be bigger. And you can see that too because they were highlighting that. Okay, so down here, let's do a couple of these. So we have 2/3 compared to 6/10. 2 divided by 3. 3 goes into 26 times. Oh, look at this. It's going to keep repeating, isn't it? So 0.66666. So what's bigger? 0 and 6/10 or 0 and 6666666? So if we look, compare, same, compare, same, compare, this would be a 0, that would be a 6. This is our bigger number. Okay. Again, we have 7/10 and 8/11. So if I did 8 divided by 11, it's be 7 minus 77 would be 3. 2 minus 22 would be 8. Would you look at this? 80 divided by 11. 77, 3 would be 2, 7272. So how I would write this repeating decimal is like this. So what's bigger, 0.7 or 0.72? That 72 would be bigger. Okay, so the main takeaway from this lesson is you need to make sure they're in the same format, both decimal, both percent, both fractions. Decimal's probably the easiest because again you don't have to deal with the common denominators. It's a little easier that way, but that's all I have for you for today. Thanks for watching to the end, and we'll see you tomorrow.